Johnny Van Zandt from Leonard Skinner. You're listening to American Hearts Radio.
Hello, America. It is Monday night. It's 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and it's the Dr. John Brinkman Medical and Surgical Hour. We're here at American's Heart Radio, and welcome to all the veterans out there. I want to give a shout out to all the veterans. Happy Veterans Day. A great day to remember you all. And I also want to give a shout out to my son, who's in North Carolina filming a movie with his mom, Andrea, my daughter, Ava, and my son Evan, and I just want to say hello to them as well. But it's Veterans Day, and last month we talked about breast cancer. That was Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and today we're going to shift our gears to talking about pediatric cancer. And with me is Shannon Chow, whose son was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and some of the issues with cancer research and any other topics. But Shannon, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
And now tell us a little bit about Logan, who is now, how old is Logan?
Logan is 5 years old.
And he was diagnosed. Tell me a little bit about his birth and
Logan was born on October 28 in 2008, and there were some complications with the C-section when he was born, and 2 days later his mother passed away. Mm-hmm. So it started out very rocky for Logan. He didn't really get to know his mother, and there's only like one photo I think that we have even with right after the child was born with him and with his mother.
Oh boy, how tragic that must have been.
It was hard. It was the hardest thing I'd ever been through.
Yeah, and obviously you loved your wife and the mother of your child, and
yeah.
And having Logan was a blessing.
Oh yes, Logan was. I loved him. You know, it wasn't. Some people in the family and around kind of saw it as maybe Logan having a part of that, mm-hmm. But it wasn't Logan's fault. The doctor had made a series of mistakes and was sewing her back up during the C-section, and then misdiagnosed her, thought she had some blood clots, and they wouldn't take her to go do a CAT scan, and because they were afraid it would shake it loose. But afterwards, it turned out the autopsy was done. She had never had the blood clots.
Okay.
And what happened was she just was sewn up the wrong way in our uterus, and had cut an artery in the uterus too when they did it, and they decided to give her heparin because they thought she had blood clots.
Okay. And then had more bleeding? Or?
They had more, when they gave him the heparin about an hour and a half after she died.
Okay.
And the same doctor that did the operation after that also operated on another girl named Ashley. And she was operated on an hour after my wife delivered the baby, and she died an hour after my wife by the same doctor. So it was a big, big tragedy. And that's kind of how Logan was brought into the world. And it took me a while. I was screwed up for a while, but it took me a while, and I recovered. And back on July 20th of 2012, Logan was diagnosed with neuroblastoma cancer. And I'm kind of dealing with my second round of a big tragedy.
Oh boy! And so, and tell me about that. Logan was developing. It seemed at a normal rate.
Man, he was
doing well, and
he was a powerhouse. I mean, my first son, which was 2 years old when this happened, when his mother passed, he is very sensitive, and but a really, really good boy. But very has a very mild attitude. He's very patient. I think he's going to make a good guitarist or something, because he has the patience for that. And Logan was sort of the opposite of that. I mean, if Dylan at 2 years old would run into the wall, he would start crying. Logan would hit it and then put his fist through it.
Okay.
So, yeah. He was he had a high pain tolerance, and he's a different child now after battling this cancer. He's not the same kid. But before the cancer came along, he was very aggressive, had a high pain tolerance, and he was going to be my little football star or something like that. He was more for those type of sports.
And their age differences were roughly 2 years, is that about right?
2 years, yeah.
And so, very close brother relationship that they had?
Very, very close. They were like, Logan was Dylan's little shadow, everywhere. And they love each other. I haven't figured out how I'm even going to talk to my son Dylan about it yet. He's 7 years old now. So
okay.
I've got an idea of how I'm going to handle that, and I'll talk to you about that later.
So Logan is now 5, and he was diagnosed with neuroblastoma
at 3 years old.
So, okay.
Yeah, and July 20th actually, at 2012.
And his presenting symptom was abdominal pain. Is that right, or just not?
When we actually discovered it, it was the reason why we discovered it is a black ring had formed around his belly button, and we had been taken him to several hospitals, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a second. But we'd taken him to several hospitals and before that, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. But when the thing finally showed itself, it had gotten so big, and you could see it through his stomach making that ring. And we took him, we were down here bringing the kids down for a visit with Grandma in Jacksonville, Florida, and we were in Virginia at the time. And the ring formed the night before. And we decided that we were going to take him to a children's hospital and have it looked out. We thought that it might be like some type of a parasite or something, because he didn't want to eat very much, and he kept getting fevers and so forth. We never thought that it would be cancer, because we figured that it would show up in blood tests and all the stuff we had done here in hospitals. So when that black ring formed, we came down here about 6 o'clock in the morning. We got in, and I dropped my fiance and Logan off at the front desk there at the emergency room at Wolf's Children's Hospital. And I told her, I said, go inside. I said, there's something wrong with this child. We've gone to 7 different hospitals. I said, go in there and take the doctor aside and say, this child is dying. I said, you find out what's wrong with him. I said, say something aggressive like that, and you'll get some attention out of a doctor when you do that. And that's exactly what she did. She said, we've gone here, we've gone there, something's wrong, there's a black mark on his belly button, my child is dying,
Now, did that black mark look like a bruise, or what did it?
It looked like a little bruise, especially right above the belly, the navel.
Okay.
So as soon as the doctor saw the little black mark, within 15 minutes, the room filled up with doctors. And about another 10 minutes after that, he was in a CAT scan. And the doctors really knew they knew then that it was neuroblastoma. It was some kind of cancer or something big. That's why they immediately went to CAT scan with it. And about 30 minutes after the CAT scan, they came to the room and told me that my son had cancer.
Now, I could imagine your reaction to that, to get that kind of news, but you're somewhat prepared in your mind that there's something serious wrong at that point?
Yeah, but I never would have thought cancer. I always thought cancer would show up on a blood test, or they even did a fecal matter test, and they did everything, all kinds of tests. I mean, it must have been 100 different tests, but they never did a CAT scan. And that's the only way this thing shows up. It doesn't show up in your blood. It doesn't show up anywhere unless it shows itself. A lot of parents catch it very late. They caught it in Logan. It was basically high 3rd stage, 4th stage cancer. And a lot of children, that's how the neuroblastoma gets discovered, in a late 3rd or 4th stage.
Okay.
Is it because doctors aren't informed about how to find this, or the symptoms and the signs?
A children's hospital would have been better, because they kind of know what to look for. But regular hospitals that are not children's hospitals, which we can't take them to, and as a parent, you think a hospital is a hospital. You don't
Yeah.
you don't know that maybe we should have taken him to a children's hospital first or something. So, and me being an over-the-road truck driver and my son being with me a lot, we were going to not just one hospital. We'd go to, different hospitals all up and down the East Coast here. And but I never once thought to take him to a children's hospital. It just
You
didn't
don't
cross my
know.
mind. Right.
The regular hospitals aren't informed of the regular staff.
Exactly. And they don't know really what to look for, and a lot of doctors don't know. It's not a. It's very rare. I mean, 700 to 1,000 children in America every year get neuroblastoma cancer.
Yeah. And I would be willing to guess that a lot of ER doctors go through a whole career and never even see this type of cancer.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, 700 diagnosed a year. When you think of all the thousands of emergency rooms and different physicians,
Yes.
they just just don't have an opportunity or misfortune of being able to diagnose somebody with this. Now, at what point did they say it was neuroblastoma? Were they able to say that at that day when
Yes,
you went to the CAT scan?
by 9:30 in the morning. It was 6 o'clock in the morning we first went in the hospital. By 9:30 in the morning on July 20th, they knew that it was neuroblastoma cancer. And that was the very first time that all of us, the family members, ever even heard of the word neuroblastoma. And we thought, that's just a cancer, and it may be like leukemia or something. And we didn't know how aggressive this disease is. It's a monster. I often call it the devil's masterpiece because it's just so aggressive.
Now, did they do a biopsy at some point, or did they? What type of treatment did they?
Yeah, they did. They did do a biopsy, and right away, and they did a bone scan. That's the first thing they want to do. They want to see what stage it's in. So they did a lot of tests for that. And they saw some lesions on his knees and on his femur bone where the disease was trying to chew in to get into his bone marrow. And but they took a bone marrow sample, a test out of the bone and so forth, and there was no, under the microscope, there was no neuroblastoma.
Okay.
So they felt, that's why they gave him a high 3, maybe a very low 4, because it actually hadn't penetrated and got into his bone marrow yet. The tumor pretty much was just in the tumor, which had grown off of his adrenal gland of his right kidney. And neuroblastoma, what that means, it's a nerve cancer. It grows off of a nerve of the cancer. That's what it basically does. That's what neuro stands for in neuroblastoma.
Yeah, and it's good to inform our listeners the cell type of this cancer. Nerve cells are pretty much everywhere in the body, from the brain. Now, neuroblastomas are most commonly arise from the adrenal glands, which are neuroectodermal tissue, and we think that children get these type of malignancies, which are neuroblastomas, are very rare in adults. But I think it's it's almost derived from embryonal tissue.
Yes.
That for some reason there becomes some dysregulation of the cell replication, and a cancer develops. And so it typically starts in the adrenal gland, and then it can spread all over.
Yeah.
And it had spread to what parts of the body? You think was in the legs then at that point?
At that point, it hadn't got into his bone marrow, but it was some lesions on his legs where it was trying to get in.
Okay.
And it was just a very faint. It would show up when they would do the scan. They would put they would give you something the day before that when they did the scan, they would show up black on.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
Now, was it in the liver at that time?
No, it wasn't. It was right below. It was around the liver.
Okay.
And it was his own tumor. It hadn't. What do you call it when it goes into other organs?
Metastasized.
Metastasized, right? It hadn't metastasized yet, and but it was a tumor. And when they discovered it, the size of the tumor was about the size of a football, and this was a 3-year-old. So you can imagine how big it was. And it was laid out flat and just wrapped around all kinds of organs and everything down there. But they felt that it hadn't penetrated any of the other any organs. They thought it was just its own entity.
Okay. So they did the scans, and they felt like it was localized to the adrenal gland or that part of the body. And then what was the next step of treatment after that?
Well, we immediately, within 2 days, started chemotherapy.
Okay.
And they have a set plan for when they do neuroblastoma that a lot of the hospitals all follow. And the goal was to shrink the tumor down through a series of chemo and radiation and stuff like that, to be able to get the tumor down small enough to where they could go in and actually, and it would back away from all the organs, so that they could go in and take the tumor out. And around January 1st, it was at the size, and they felt it was time to do it. It had actually shrunk down to somewhere between a tennis ball and a golf ball by the time through all of the chemo. And they went in and did the surgery, and it got everything they could get it out. The doctor thought she had done a really good job. Took some of the part of the kidney to actually get it out. And but when you're dealing with this type of cancer, I mean, one cell left. One cell is all it takes. And how a lot of this cancer comes into children, we all kind of have this type of cell, neuroblastoma, in our bodies when we're children, and our bodies are trained to shut it down or stop it for most of us. But in some cases, one goes awry, and that's what happened to Logan. One cell did not get shut off and went to where it was at. Another place that they frequently can come on children is on their neck, which I kind of wished it had, because we would have seen a lump and we'd have been able to catch it sooner. When it goes in the area where it went on Logan, a lot of times you don't catch it till fourth stage.
Yeah. In the abdomen, there's a lot of room for expansion, and a mass can get very large before it can be detected.
And it grows fast.
So how many hours surgery was that? Was it a pretty lengthy operation?
Yeah, I would say the surgery was about 4.5, 5 hours. It was pretty lengthy, and but the doctor felt she had done the best job. A lot of stuff they don't tell, and that's why I'm here to talk about, is that how serious and how hard it is to stop it. And I believe the doctors know, that, and I think Logan had somewhere around a 5 or 6% chance that it wouldn't come back. As a parent, and back then, we felt that he had an 80-90% chance that it wasn't going to come back.
Now, did they actually give you statistics?
No, they didn't.
Now, did you ever ask him, like, what are the statistics? What are the chances of survival, or what's the chance of him recovering from the operation? Do you ever?
He did. He Dr. Sandler was the one that was handling us over at Wolf's Children's Hospital, and he told me that when we originally discovered it, that he felt that it was a high 3, but I think he was just being nice. Really, Logan was in 4th stage, and he told me that if we could beat it this way, and I'm thinking of my son. His middle name is Chadwick, which means warrior in Greek. So it is. It's kind of he was like a warrior. I mean, he was a strong kid. And I said, shoot, if any kid has a chance of beating this crap up, my son has it, because he's just strong. He was like I used to take and bottle him up in my hand and say, look, he's like a piece of wire, and it wouldn't hurt him. And it was amazing. So I thought that we had a really good chance, and especially when I thought it was a third stage. I thought we were just going to be able to kick this thing's butt and move on. But I didn't really know much about neuroblastoma.
Yeah, doctors are, human beings that, we have our own emotions. Sometimes, it's hard to convey sometimes the real cold facts of a cancer and the prognosis, especially when it can be, very gloomy. And I don't think any physician ever wants to leave a person without any hope. Is the other aspect why sometimes physicians, we really don't like to get into the actual numbers and statistics of things, and especially when the outlook can be, a little bit bleak and down. So he got through the operation. How long was he in the hospital after that?
He was in the hospital for about 2 weeks after the surgery.
Okay. And recovered fairly well?
He recovered very well.
And was it a pretty long transverse incision across his abdomen? Is that what they...
Yes, it was, I would say maybe about 5 inches.
Which is probably about the width of his abdomen at that point.
Yeah, yes, that's true.
And so, then afterwards, felt like it got it all out. It looked like the margins were negative.
Yeah.
That's what one of the things that surgeons look for, we like, when we remove a cancer, we like to remove the cancer plus a normal margin of tissue around it the best we can. And so that all looked good. And then he did they do a follow-up scan at some point, another
Yeah.
CAT scan?
They did, and then they started doing some more treatment still, and they had to do the radiation after that.
Okay.
They blasted the whole midsection of him with a lot of radiation, and actually gave him a second-degree burns when you get that
Okay,
kind of
sure.
that kind of treatment. And it's very hard, as a father, to put your child. You can imagine putting your child in. It's like a microwave kind of. It's hard to do something harmful, but unfortunately, when you're dealing with cancer, that's the only way you can tackle the thing.
Uh-huh.
And you hope that it just doesn't do long-term damage. I mean, I would ask the doctors often, all this radiation and all of this chemo we're doing. I mean, how many years am I taking off of his life? I mean, why is there any other way? And unfortunately, there's not. And they can't give you an answer on how long that it would take off your child's life when they do these treatments.
So they did the radiation for what, 5 or 6 weeks afterwards, or how long the time period was it after the surgery?
They did the radiation and bone marrow transplant, all those type of things they do afterwards, and they did it from all the way from January 1st to September 1st.
Okay.
And that was when he was completed his last round of chemo and so forth that they do in this case. And they had given him back in early June, around June 1st, they had given him 100 days cancer-free at a celebration, which is something I don't understand because that kind of gave a lot of us on the family side some false hopes.
Okay.
Because we didn't, they kind of knew that it was a slim chance. And, but yet they would have this 100-day celebration, then a 200-day celebration, the cancer's gone. As all of us in the family, we really kind of wish that they didn't do that. We wish they would change that, on how to do it, because they know that when it's 4 stage, that there's a slim chance that it will stay gone for a long period of time. And when they do the celebrations, that makes us feel like, well, he's beat it. He's done. He's going home, and he's going to have a normal life and so forth. And then when it comes back, it rips you to the core. And so around September 1st, we actually moved and got a home on January 1st in a town called Independence, Oregon, and that's where his brother and sister live, and my fiance now, and we have a big, beautiful home. It's beautiful there.
Okay.
So while he was finishing his treatments, he was supposed to be coming home and then finishing out the follow-ups and stuff for 5 years to make sure to come back once a month there at Dornbecker hospital there in Portland, and he was going to be coming home November 1st. And so September 1st, I bought Grandma here, Beverly, and my son a plane ticket to come home and see what his home was. And we got his room all set up, and I mean it's beautiful. And so he flew out September 1st, and he kept having a lot of pain in his legs when he got out there. And so she's giving him the pills and things that they're supposed to give him as we're finishing up. He kept complaining all the time about my legs hurting so bad. Well, they were telling Beverly and me that the reason why this pain was in his legs is that was the finish up of the therapy they were doing, and that it's just painful on your legs.
Okay.
But the reality was the neuroblastoma back in June had already started coming back. And when neuroblastoma comes back for the second time, it's a monster. It's vicious. When it comes back for a second time, it comes back to try to kill the child. I mean, it comes back every way it could. In Logan's case, it drilled through his knee and went into his femur bone and was cut about halfway up his leg. And that was where all the pain was coming in, and started drilling in on his left leg and his knee, and came back in the same area off the kidney on the right side, but bigger, and then over his chest and over his heart and around a lot of the arteries up and down through his neck that feed blood to his brain. And so when it came back the second time, it came back it just got him in the worst way, and had metastasized, they believe, into his liver.
Oh. And then he became jaundiced shortly after that, or was it about the same time?
Yeah, the jaundice came in right after that, and
going to talk about the costs and the different types of research and things. When we come back, we're going to take a commercial break here in a second.
Okay. Thank you. We'll see you in a moment.
Logan Shannon is 4 years old. He turns 5 on October 28th. Look at that smile. Well, this afternoon, a stretch limo arrived at his family's Orange Park home, bringing, Batman for a visit. Oh, look at that. Dreams come true, which grants dreams to children battling life-threatening illnesses, made the visit possible. For the past 15 months, Logan spent a lot of time at Wolfson Children's Hospital for surgery, chemo, and other treatments. His family hoped Batman would lift his spirits and make this day a little bit better. And judging by that,
we understand Batman actually asked Logan for a few lessons in bravery. Batman thought he could learn a thing or two from Logan about bravery.
we all could, I'm
We
sure.
all could, that's right.
You might want to brace yourself because this is Logan at Halloween, and he loves Batman and Superman.
I graduated head of my class in crime fighting.
But this is not pretend. He is yellow now.
That's his bilirubin. That's the liver damage.
You can see the cancer, the dark spots.
He has neuroblastoma.
And so bad in his knees. In fact, just watch here. Logan playing with my camera. And all of the sudden...
Your knee.
Yeah.
It hurts.
All the time.
Oh, what's it feel like?
Feels like it still feels like a dinosaur ate me.
Like a dinosaur is eating him. A little fellow just tried to describe cancer.
Oh, I love Logan.
It's hard on you as a nurse, isn't it?
Hard enough for the nurses at Nemours, but for Daddy?
He's the best son a father could ever have.
But the blood transfusions and the morphine...
Show me how old you are.
What do you say to a little guy?
He doesn't know, how serious. So I tell him that it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Better, Dad says, in heaven. Logan can't understand stage 4 terminal cancer, so this just breaks your heart.
Hey,
I appreciate it.
hey,
Hey, what?
did you know Santa, he pumps that from there?
In the fireplace, he sure does.
Logan wants drums for Christmas. But the family's been told Logan won't be here for Christmas. He'll probably pass away about Thanksgiving. And the pain's so extra hard for Grandma. Her daughter, Logan's mom, died right after giving birth to Logan.
It just doesn't seem fair to have to lose him too.
So how can we help this family? Well, first, know your superheroes.
I don't know who the girl is, though.
Wonder Woman silly.
Wonder Woman, silly. And your Transformers, cars and all.
Somehow they need tons of dogs. Somehow.
Logan loves Facebook messages. And Beverly, she could use grocery store gift cards. She lost her job taking care of Logan.
How about prayers?
Absolutely.
Prayers are big.
Lots of prayers.
And their prayer, a miracle. A great big giant miracle.
Okay, welcome back. This is Dr. John Brinkman's Medical and Surgical Hour, and I'm here with Shannon Channel. And we were talking about his son Logan with neuroblastoma, and we're at the point where he developed a recurrence, where he developed metastatic cancer throughout his whole body, essentially.
Yes.
And you're describing that, and then what did the doctors say about the next round of treatment, or did they give you any other recommendations? And
They told me that the way it came back on my son, that there was nothing else that can be done. They said that I needed to prepare, and that he was going to die. And they said that no child ever in the history of man that's got a reoccurrence of neuroblastoma has ever survived. And they said that, and that of course hit me. That hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, because I didn't expect that. I thought, well, it's back again. What are we doing now?
that there's some other drug that they could get.
Yeah, I thought, well, we'll go at this again and we can do something. But the current treatments and what they have right now, when it comes back and reoccurring neuroblastoma, there hasn't been any survivors. There's a new treatment out about the ELF treatment that I talked to you about a little bit earlier, and that has had some good results, and that's the only option really that Logan has left. We're testing right now to see if he has the ELF gene.
And I think that's the biggest target of research, is looking at the genetics of these type of cancers. We think that cancer recurs perhaps from drug resistance is that what they described? Is that the cancer just became resistant to the chemotherapy and the treatments, and so then you got to think of a new way to attack the cancer, and we try to look for different receptors on the cancer cell, or the different genetics that we can create drugs that can attack the specifics of it.
Yes. Well, when it came back the second time, it had grown so big in the same area, and had wrapped around the pancreas and the gallbladder, and on the bilirubin, they have these valves that drain from your liver, that are drain the poisons that the liver filters out and so forth through your gallbladder and into your small intestines. Well, those two valves, the tumor had gotten so big and wrapped around and squeezed them shut. And so Logan started turning yellow, and that's how we knew there was a problem, and they took him back to the hospital, and that's how we discovered the second round.
Okay.
And so the doctor there, Dr. Joyce, was one of the doctors that I had convinced to help me, do something, and he says, well, there's something we can do to maybe buy more time. So we went in, and they decided to put a stent in him. Well, they don't really do childhood stents in these type of little tiny valves and stuff. So they talked to an adult doctor, that gastroenterologist.
Yes.
And he came over and he says, I might have a small enough stent, and I can go in through the mouth and go down and maybe put the stent in there and open up so that the bowel can drain and properly and be able to get the poisons out. And so at that point, Logan's bilirubin, a good healthy bilirubin count on a normal person is a 0.8 to a 1.5, and Logan at that point was at a 17.2, and anything over 20 is very life-threatening. You're toxic throughout your brain, your body, and so forth, with a poison that your liver can't drain. It's just a heavy dose of jaundice.
Right. Was he scratching himself all the time? Was he pretty
itchy? Little bit of scratching, and his eyes were completely yellow, the whites of the eyes, and his whole body had turned yellow. And a lot of us were praying, for a miracle. And the night before we did the stent, for some reason his bilirubin had gone to 20.
Okay.
And they didn't think even the stent was going to do any good. Well, the night before they did the stent, they came in the next day and drew the blood and everything, did the test, and his bilirubin overnight dropped from a 20.5 to a 12.5. And all the doctors kept coming in and asking me what I did. I said all I did was hold him all night and pray. I didn't do anything else. He did play a little bit the night before and moved around the bed. And so they said they hadn't seen it go from a 20 to a 12 like that.
And overnight, that's pretty remarkable.
They thought that was, they want to know what I did. And
they think it was a lab error? I mean, that's a lot of times
they thought that, but the other numbers they matched up on it, matched up to be accurate, so they knew that it wasn't that. It just miraculously, I think through the prayers and so forth, it started changing it. So the next morning we decided to go with the stent, and when they put the stent in, his bilirubin dropped down to a 3.0.
Okay.
And this was a good sign that maybe we can do other things, go ahead with chemo. So they decided to do another round of chemo. Originally the first chemo they had done. Well,
so they did a whole different drug then.
Yeah.
Something
it was
different.
what they had given him on the first round. I can't remember the names of it, but it was the very first round. We first had discovered the tumor back in July 20th of 2012. Whatever round they did then, they decided to do that again. But they only gave him 75% of it because they were afraid of the bilirubin numbers being so high. And it didn't work. It didn't do anything. It kept the cancer from growing, but it didn't shrink it
Okay.
as far as what they could see. And then his belly ribbon, the stent stopped working for some reason, and the tumor may have gotten bigger and it choked it off. And now his belly ribbon is running right around 24.5,
Okay.
somewhere in there, which is critical.
Mm-hmm. Now tell me, at what point did Logan, or has he comprehended, the diagnosis of cancer?
Logan, he doesn't know how serious it is. He was scared when it came back the second time, and all the grandparents' faces and everybody in the room and all the attention. He thought he was dying, and he got scared and he kept screaming, I'm dying, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. So I ran in the room, cleared the room, and told him, looked him in the face and said, you're not going to die. I'm not going to let you die. Don't worry about dying, everything's fine. Daddy's got another doctor that we're going to go see, and we've got some other things we can do. But you're going to grow up, you're going to go to school, and you're going to be fine. Because he was terrorized. He's afraid of the dark. He's afraid of everything.
And this is a boy that was punching holes into walls and playing rough with his brother, and
now he whines, and a lot of the grandparents have of course bathed him. Because everybody feels sorry for a child with cancer, so a year and a half of that changes a child. But also fighting the cancer has made him weak. All of the radiation and everything has changed him. He's a completely different child than he was when he came in to start the therapy. And he's also scared. So as any parent, you don't want your child to know they're going to die, and if they're scared. And so I lied my butt off and just did what I could to make him feel comfortable. And now, ever since I've done that, he can't tolerate very long periods of time without me being there, because I've become kind of his daddy's going to make it okay. And that's hard. That's very hard.
And so now he's on pain medications, and
now he has a line hooked to he has ports in his chest, and he has a MVG tube, that's what they call those, and he's hooked up to a bag and a machine that has a constant flow of morphine. And as the cancer gets worse and worse and the pain gets stronger and stronger, we have a button that we can press on it to give him more and more morphine.
How can people help the family? I know there's some things on the news they listed.
Yes, I'm not real sure what the accounts and all they have set up.
I've got all that printed out.
Yeah, Channel 12 has done something to help the family with money. The grandmother has had to quit her job, and she's had full time taking care of him. I had a choice in the beginning of to take him back to Virginia and have my mom take care of him, or have him here with the other family members and so forth, that they could help take care of him so that we could have a good staff. And in the end, I made a decision, since there was 2 sets of grandparents here, and we were already here, and I made a decision to go ahead and do the treatments here, even though me, Logan, and Dylan, and Kinley didn't live here. And hindsight now, I'm not sure if I should have done that, but that was a choice I made at the time.
I have that information right here that I printed out where you can, right here where they can send, and these are the things that the families need that they have printed out.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to read that?
Yeah, I'll be happy to read this for you. Let's see. Well, we can donate to the family's ViStar Credit Union. The routing info number is 263-079-276, and that's account number 703-018-556.
It's Robert Skalinsky, correct?
Robert Staklinsky?
Stalinsky.
Okay. And again, that's routing number 263-079-276, account number 703-018-556. Let me spell Robert's last name. It's spelled Staklinski. And the address, you can also forward it to First Coast News for Logan. Address is 1070 East Adams Street, Jacksonville, Florida. Zip code 32207. So any donations cards or anything that can be given, Logan would love that.
And also, you can go to Facebook called Superhero, all one word, space Logan, and click on like, post whatever you want. There's a lot of information up there, and there's over 2,000 people, brother, on there already.
Yeah.
That are supporting this.
Yes.
And all we can do is make people aware.
That's why I'm here. I was worried about a lot of the media attention at first. I didn't want this to turn into like the Logan show, like a reality show. Here, watch my son die. I didn't want that. But once I realized, after talking to neuroblastoma specialists at Vanderbilt University, Sloan Kettering in New York, and CHOPS in Philadelphia, I've had 3 different specialists in neuroblastoma, some of them with 20 years experience fighting this disease. And the problem here is there's no awareness. There's no awareness of this disease, not enough, and the children aren't getting the help because no one's talking about it. And part of my therapy, I think, through handling this is the rest of my life. I'm going to dedicate my life to getting neuroblastoma on the map and getting somebody out there working to find a cure, so that 10, 20 years from now, there's not another father facing what I have to face right now.
Yeah. I mean, I really appreciate your courage in coming on and explaining your story, and I mean, it's just hard to imagine the tragedy that's here, and the research is such a critical component in any type of cancer. And I was looking at some of the numbers. We just finished with breast cancer awareness, and that's a kind of a politically correct type of cancer that the treatment, and it certainly is appropriate to deal with breast cancer, but some of the discrepancies and the disparity of the money spent for breast cancer compared to neuroblastoma is just really remarkable. The National Cancer Institute, I think, contributes about $600 million a year for breast cancer research. The NIH, which is the National Institute of Health, contributes another $130 million. The Department of Defense spends $138 million, and then the Pink Ribbon Symposiums of the breast cancer awareness, it's over another $250 million a year. So it's almost $1 billion for breast cancer. Now, and the thing about breast cancer is that maybe 1 out of 6 women will really die of the cancer. We do a lot with the diagnosis and treatment, and then when you compare these childhood cancers, just a fraction of the money for cancer goes into pediatric cancers, and it's probably no more than $30 million a year goes into just childhood cancers, and only a small fraction of that goes into neuroblastoma research.
Well, I'll tell you what at CHOPS there in Philadelphia, Dr. Moset's nurse practitioner told me on the telephone. She said, what the problem is with this neuroblastoma and childhood cancers is the children don't have a voice. Because I brought up that, I was like, everybody's doing something for the breast cancer, I see it everywhere. But I don't see a lot going on for the children. And she said, children don't have a voice and women do. And she said that is what has to change.
Yeah, sure. And then the other aspect is the typical breast cancer patient. I think the average is around age 60, and when you think of the loss in life and years, it's just a fraction of a child who gets diagnosed with neuroblastoma in their early years, and then the survival isn't very good, and just so many years of lost life that certainly more money could be spent, and perhaps we could come up with
not
a cure.
Not just research, but awareness too, and that there is no money for pediatric cancers. I mean, all in all, correct?
Yes.
Well, as a father who has a child who's dying from this disease, how I feel about this, I watch a lot of shows on Netflix and stuff because I have time to kill at the house while my son sleeps beside me. And I watch shows like, Boeing Aircraft Company up in Seattle, Washington. And you see these huge warehouses of just hundreds and hundreds, thousands of employees working round the clock building these airplanes like there's no tomorrow. And the thoughts that go through my mind is, why aren't there cancer research centers this big and this kind of money and focus being focused on cures for cancer? The breast cancer, for instance, back in the 1950s, from what I understand, and earlier, women was 1 in 22 would get breast cancer. Now it's 1 in 8. And we have to find out what's causing this. I mean, a lot of people feel it's the food or the plastics that we put all our water and drinks and sodas in. Something has changed and made cancer appear in women and breasts a lot more than it used to. And children are getting sicker. And we've got to get some research on this. We need to find out what the problem is. Is the antibiotics they're giving the cows? What is, or the steroids and stuff they're giving them, or what they're doing in the farm fields, the pesticides? Who knows? But something is causing more and more people to get cancer. And there's just not enough money and research going for a cure either. I mean, we've got to beat this thing.
Possibly the ecosystem is causing a lot.
Yeah, could be.
Shannon, do you ever think or ask, like, why me? Does that question ever come? Or why is it to Logan? And
to lose your wife in childbirth for a man, that is the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
And it's so rare to happen. It's I don't know, 1 in a millions, you know. And how that happened to me, I was just blown away. And then, as far as neuroblastoma and getting your child getting cancer, is 1 in over 100,000. And this is only 5 years apart on these two. So I often ask, why, God? Is this a test? Why is this happening? I can't. I don't know how much more I can take. You know, and it is unfortunate to have two major. I think that's why Logan has gotten so much attention through the media on this, because I think it's a lot better chance of winning the lottery or something than to have something like this happen twice in a family. And Logan's mother, you know, she gave her life for Logan to be born, and then 5 years later we're handed this, and it kind of can't. I always kind of looked at Logan's birth as Tara gave the ultimate sacrifice to bring this wonderful, amazing child here, and now I'm about to lose him, and it kills me.
Yeah,
it just kills me.
You're a remarkably strong individual to persevere through all of this, and really appreciate you telling the story, because the courage that you have, I don't know.
Very noble, man. I'm so humbled, brother.
Just really remarkable.
Well, I'm not going to give up. I think part of my therapy through all of this is to dedicate the rest of my life, and to get this nationally known. You know, this is locally known here in Jacksonville, and I think this needs to get national, and I think there needs to be more money, like breast cancer, being raised for childhood cancers.
Amen.
Neuroblastoma, leukemia, and things like that. I'm going to start up a foundation in my son's name called the Logan Channel Foundation. I haven't decided when and where, how we're doing it yet. I have a lot of women that live in my neighborhood in Independence, Oregon, who have sewed Logan a quilt together.
Okay.
And they're in the process.
Very noble to make him a pillar of awareness.
Yeah, I have 18-wheelers, two 18-wheelers now. My son's face and neuroblastoma is going to be painted all over those 18-wheeler, 53-foot trailers. And my cousin has a trucking business too, and we're doing that. We're not going to stop until there's some recognition. But back to what I was talking about.
We're going to help you every step of the way with our network, American Hearts Radio, our web TV shows, radio, everything, brother.
There needs to be marches, there needs to be walks for the children. And
walks for the children.
The money needs to go directly to the research centers. Like, there's one really good one that I like. It's
we put your foundation together, it goes to your foundation, and you make sure that it goes to the right place and the right people.
Yeah, make sure that it goes directly to, you know, I know there's a lot of administrative fees and so forth when you start up foundations like this for setting up the events, getting the ribbons, the t-shirts and things like that. when that's all said and done, it shouldn't be over 20% of what you raise. It should be at least 80% going to.
We should be able to get some type of possible non-for-profit grant to build that foundation.
Yeah. But right now, when it's all said and done, and administrative fees, and everybody's got their hands in it, there's only 7% left that actually makes it to the actual research for a cure of all the money that goes to childhood cancer. And Jeff Foxworthy has brought that out and has been exposing that out on the air too.
Okay. And he's a comedian you talk, Jeff Foxworthy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just heard him talk about that on the radio when we were driving through Atlanta, coming back from Vanderbilt with Logan.
Okay.
And he said that most people are not aware that only 7% of all the money that goes to childhood cancers actually makes it to for the cure, the actual research center for the cure. Because the hospitals, the doctors, the current treatments and programs, and all the administrative fees to arrange all the getting the money.
Reach out to
That's where most of it goes to.
Yeah.
And that's absurd.
Yeah.
That has to change.
Yeah, and the money for pediatric cancers, I would think, should go right into the basic science of there, because there's really there's not much, like with breast cancer and colon cancer, we spend a lot of money on the screening aspect and the prevention, and I'm not sure if there will be a way to prevent it, but I would think that the basic science, the research of just looking at the genetics and the development of new drugs and therapies, and the thing about it, we any type of research that is being done on a pediatric cancer, any cancer, and sometimes it's not very fruitful in that cancer, but we find that it has application to other cancers.
Oh yes.
And you know, spending the money in the basic science and the research and the physiology of genetics will hopefully be a benefit.
I was driving my truck one night and I stopped into this truck stop.
Okay.
And right when I walked in the front door, I think it was a Love's or something, I can't remember. There was a television playing. And I walked into everybody going, yay, clapping around the TV. And I'm like, what's the deal? And they're like, oh, they just had a show on the news. They said they found a cure for cancer. I said, are you kidding me? Really? I said, well, my son has cancer. He's going through treatments right now. This was back maybe in January. And so I was like, all right, they're finally kicking the butt on this thing. So I did some research on it and pulled up the article. There's a hospital in Los Angeles area. It's called City of Hope. It's a huge hospital. Big research center. And there's two doctors there that are chemists and so forth, and what they were doing was trying to discover how to shut off the gene so that you would lose weight. And they found out there's a gene that's actually it's a protein that they're called RLIP protein.
Okay.
And they had a bunch of mice, and they would shut this gene off, this RLIP, not all the way off, but enough to where a healthy cell would only need a little bit, but cancer needs a lot more. And they would inject these mice with 10 different kinds of cancer. And after they had shut down the RLIP gene on the mice, and the cancer could not take, would not grow, and the cancer in them would just die and go away. Tumors would just disappear. And they're supposed to go into human trials on that here next year. The side effects on this blew them away. The mice would eat a lot of fattening foods no matter what they gave it.
Okay.
And the mice would stay healthy compared to the one next to it would just literally turn into where you couldn't see the legs no more. And also brought down their they would take insulin.
It brought down the glucose?
Yes.
Okay.
And made the mice much healthier. So they're going to start human trials here on this. This gave me a lot of hope, and I wanted to know what its effect was on neuroblastoma. So there are things on the front right now that we may be getting very close to a cure. And when they shut the RLIP down protein in the mice, it was enough to keep a healthy cell to where it only needs a little bit, but cancer needs a lot of the RLIP protein.
Okay.
And so the cancer just dies and goes away, and the healthy cells remain.
There was a person here in Jacksonville Beach, Intercoastal Waterway, that did this test in his own garage using high-powered radio waves, and he injected a copper sulfate mixture into the mice that had cancerous tumors. And what that did was they adhered to the tumor so that it could be located directly, and he burned it with the high-powered radio waves.
Immediately.
Yeah.
This was the same guy that lit salt water with high-powered radio
Yeah.
waves.
We're on the verge. I mean, just since my son's been diagnosed, they found an actual vaccine now for malaria. And malaria kills over in Africa almost 100,000 children, yearly, and around the world, I think that is. And so for them to have a cure now, I mean, basically a vaccination for malaria, that is amazing.
Yeah.
And so we're on the break. Everybody every 50 to 100 years, medical science just really explodes with a lot of stuff, like it did at the turn of the century with penicillin and so forth. And I think we're at that point now when things are about to really explode. But it would sure be nice if there was people working like they doing at Boeing building those aircraft,
Yeah.
round the clock, research doctors going to town on finding a cure for cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. More funding needs to be put into the process and the projects. And the thing about cancer, it's just multiple diseases.
Yes.
It's not just cancer. There's
Yes.
and even neuroblastoma. It's kind of interesting where, say, a young person, maybe under the age of a year, a lot of times they'll just have a spontaneous remission of that type of cancer.
Yes.
And then some that are diagnosed later, it can be just very aggressive, and it's just kind of an unusual thing to figure out, why does it behave so differently in one person to another?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense, but there's just so much there is to be learned.
And it hides well. It's just one of those diseases that hide.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part about it as a parent, because I had a chance to catch it 6 weeks earlier before we actually caught it, and when he started having symptoms, pain and so forth, and it hides. We went to 7 different hospitals over a 6-week span, about once every other week, and once a week, and we were doing every kind of test there was, and they were coming up, well, maybe it's a parasite, so they would do a fecal mammal test, and they would do blood, they would do x-rays and everything. They never did the CAT scan, which would have caught it, because they were afraid of putting a 3-year-old through that kind of radiation that a CAT scan has. But if we had caught it sooner, it might have been a little better.
Yeah.
We got about 3 minutes left. Go ahead and if you can mention when they give us a call, people that want to know more about it, the website and the phone number, and mention a couple other shows, because we're going to be running these shows and podcasting this as well. And I'll be running parts and pieces of this on Life's Journey, my show, and Bruce has Wednesday. And then
I just want to say I'm dedicating the country music show to Logan as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and we did Fearless Friday, also doing big stories. So we're going to be broadcasting this within all of our radio personalities, all of our shows. I'm going to have them mention it on the web television shows. The main thing that you want to get out there before our time is up, both you guys, like I said, to go and give some people a little bit more information. Also give them that address too, where they can write to help the family.
Yes.
Yes. So, anybody want to advertise on the show? Call 904-229-8150.
Yes, sir.
Or 1-800-296-1477. And again, that address, if you want to donate to the family's ViStar Credit Union account, it is routing 263-079-276 and account number 703-018-556, and that's Robert Steklinski, right?
That's it. Steklinski. They call him Stack.
Stack. Robert Steklinski.
He's a grandfather, correct?
All right.
He is the step-grandfather.
He's a step-grandpa?
Yes, and he's married to Beverly, which is grandma.
Cool.
Or you can call or write to First Coast News for Logan, 1070 East Adams Street, Jacksonville, Florida. 32007 is the zip code. 32207.
Any last things that you'd like to say, Shannon?
Just I would like the public to research on this and maybe Google neuroblastoma and look into childhood cancers and look into where this money's going. And if you see what I see, get outraged and try to do something about it. Try to make a change for the children, for my son.
Amen. John?
And it's been a great show, and Shannon, I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm just amazed at your courage and I don't know. You're just an inspiration to us all.
Yeah.
I mean,
Amen.
It's just
I throw it all up to God.
Yes, he's definitely.
He's what's getting me through.
Yes.
Well, John, tell them when they can tune in, what nights.
Okay, Monday night, 8 o'clock
Eastern
Standard Time Zone, and this is the Dr. John Brinkman Medical and Surgical Hour.
On American Hearts Radio.
American Hearts Radio. That's right.
That's right. Guys, God bless you, Shannon.
Yeah, it was very nice. It was nice meeting you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming in.
All right,
I hope I
guys.
educate you a little bit on it too.